Fathers, be good to your daughters. Daughters will love like you do. That song's always haunted me. Don't get me wrong, I think it's beautiful, but I would have loved it if someone had sung it to my father when I was born. Has me thinking about the complicated relationship that I had with my father and the messages that I've received that have taken me a lifetime to work through. Messages that influenced me consciously and unconsciously as a young woman growing up. And messages which certainly impacted my relationships with men and myself on many levels. Fathering is complex. I know so many fathers who work really hard to protect and provide for their families and to be the role models and mentors that their children need. And we're going to hear from some of them shortly. My husband, Michael, is a wonderful father who cares deeply about how he parents and the impact of his words and actions on our son. But I've also known fathers who are unaware of the effect of their behavior on their children. Fathers who shirk their responsibility or who are absent. Fathers who are abusive to their wives or their children. Fathers who don't realize that they're constantly modeling to their sons and daughters how a man behaves in this world and how a man should behave in this world. Fathers who don't comprehend their God-like status in their children's eyes. I wonder how their fathering would change if they were to remember that they are, in John Mayer's words, as Joel just sang, the God and weight of their children's world. The God and weight of their children's world. When my mother was 7 months pregnant with me and living in Germany, my father wanted her to go to the States so that his child would be born on American soil and have a chance at being president of the United States. Now, I don't know whether this was a deferred dream of his, as he was a naturalized US citizen, but in any case, my German mother dutifully left Frankfurt, came to the States to have her baby in a foreign country with new doctors in a strange medical environment. And so I was born a girl. And my father saw his dreams of having his child become president dissolve in front of him. At that time, a woman being president would have been unthinkable. And sadly, decades later, that ceiling has yet to be cracked. I was never quite able to reverse my father's disappointment. I was female, after all. For him, a girl just wasn't as relatable or as worthy of respect. In his mind, a woman wasn't likely to be as successful or powerful as a man. Girls who became women were supposed to stay home, be attractive, have babies, raise the children, and have a drink and dinner ready for the man when he returned home from work. The one rare exception I recall with joy was when I graduated magna cum laude from Princeton and won a prize for my senior thesis. It was the only time I saw him swell with pride at what I'd achieved. The rest of the time, unintentional or otherwise, I felt less than for just being a woman. Make no mistake, I loved my father deeply. And that love fueled my hopes and inspired hard work around trying to transform our relationship into something better. But he died without that happening. And now it's my job to make peace with that. Now, the quality of fathers obviously varies dramatically, and I didn't want to ignore that today. So today I'd like to share some positive examples too of fathering. And we're going to hear from some extraordinary fathers among us, as well as a daughter whose two dads were indeed very good to her. If your own stories of fatherhood don't match these ideals, I hear you. I encourage you to join me in finding the Father energy within. Find the ways in which you can reparent yourself with courage, protection, strength, and acceptance. Find and celebrate other good men in your life who embody the blessed qualities of fatherhood. Growing up, my best friend's father modeled what my own father could not. And we can all look to community for adoptive fathers. There are so many beautiful candidates right here in this sanctuary. So thank you. Thank you to all the fathers who've been good to your daughters and all your children. Thank you to those modeling, being examples of the very best kinds of fathers and grandfathers. Thank you to the many fathers who deeply bless our community with your caring, your action, your courage, and your mentoring. May these reflections of the blessings of fathers honor you all. And I'd now like to invite a wonderful father and grandfather in our midst, Riley Neal, to come up and share his reflection.
Well, as Nika said, I'm Riley Neal, and I wanted to tell you that I had 3 fathers growing up. Melvin, my birth father, was a big sports fan. Skinny Neal was student body president and captain of the Compton High School D basketball team. That's it. Compton in the 20s had a varsity, junior varsity, B, C, and D teams. As one might expect, I was one of the slowest runners in my 4th grade class. Even girls beat me. That caused me great distress, and my dad gave me running lessons, teaching me to run on my toes rather than heels first. I didn't win a lot more races, but I felt better. I had a secret weapon. The girls didn't have that. He often shared my pain and helped me through the tough times. In front of Neal's mortuary on Compton Boulevard is the bell that hung in the First Baptist Church in the late 1800s. My dad rescued that bell from the back of the church and mounted it in front of the mortuary. He wrote a 4 to 5 page handwritten history of the bell, just what I needed for show and tell. He gave me the papers, and I took them to school, and I was in that phase where I'd rip up papers when I was done with them. Yeah. I didn't know he'd written that bell history for a talk he was giving to the Kiwanis Club. When I found out, I was crying. As on many similar occasions, he comforted me, helped me see what I should have done differently, and helped me to forgive myself. On Father's Day, when I was 10, Daddy was killed in an automobile accident on the Angeles Crest Highway. Uncle Billy, who lived next door, became my father figure. He was dean of men at Compton College, coached Dodger Duke Snyder, and was an NFL ref. One aspect of the NFL job was to attend periodic sessions where your bad calls were reviewed in front of all your peers. Uncle Billy shared some of these experiences with us and illustrated how to accept criticism and to learn from it. 3 years later, my mom married Howard, who had lived in our neighborhood. He was my father through my teen years. Ronald Reagan appointed him to the state school board, and he served as president for several years. He even signed Valerie's teaching certificate. Integrity was Howard's strong suit, both in business and on the board. His actions illustrated the importance of honesty. Howard was a staunch Republican. When I grew older, we'd argue heatedly. Howard argued with civility, respect, and he listened to the opinions of others, traits I seek to emulate. These fathers made me who I am, in ways I'm aware of and in ways I'm not. I often consciously try to use their techniques with my kids and grandkids, but more often I use the lessons they taught without realizing where they came from. They're buried deep within and will last a lifetime.
Hi, I'm Dana Ryan, for those of you who don't know me. Normally I'm back there in the AV corner, and I need to take a moment. For a little bit it looked like I was going to be running that by myself and then running up here and doing this. And so thank you to the two fathers back there who are running the AV section for me. Thank you very much. My blessing was the gift of my father. I don't remember my parents very much before the divorce when I was 9. My mom, her new girlfriend, and I moved down to Eagle Rock, and then my dad stayed in San Francisco to find the man of his dreams. Yes, you guessed it. My parents had realized they were gay and unhappy together. People did that a lot back there and try to fit into the hetero mold when it just didn't fit. Thank goodness for the move to San Francisco from Nebraska, where that just wasn't done. Anyway, when I was traveling back up north every other weekend to visit my dad, we started trying to find our way to a relationship. It was during that time that my dad met Christian. It wasn't by direct intention, but by action over time that he would become my stepdad. That was the first year that I remember our Christmas tree. It was huge and dramatic. Christian really raised the decorating bar to new heights. He's the one who taught me to over-the-top decorate for holidays, shave my legs, and clean house. Interestingly. He's also the one who sparked my love of reading. They had opened a shop down in the Castro, and on Saturdays they'd be working all day, and there wasn't a lot for me to do, so he bought me The Secret Garden. That's the first book I really remember reading, and I loved it. It was wonderful. I'd sit in the shop and read while they were waiting on everybody, and then he'd send me down to the bookstore with $5 and a list of books I might enjoy, and that was a beautiful gift. Dad, he also encouraged Dad and I to go out on excursions on Sundays, something we'd never really done, and we found that we enjoyed doing a lot of things together. We had a really nice time doing that. And then Dad started teaching me how to cook. The first thing he taught me was how to make a spinach souffle. And as I got older, we continued doing all kinds of exotic things like that, and I had to laugh. I as an adult, young adult, I had no idea how to boil water and make dry pasta, but I had deboned a duck. Christian died 4 years ago after dealing with cancer for 10 years. That put them just a few months shy of the 40-year mark. I didn't expect to get emotional, sorry. But you know me, those who know me knew I was going to do that, right? The last year of Christian's life, Dad and I talked a lot about what his life was going to look like, because 40 years is a long time to spend with somebody. So I started spending more and more time with him then. That was when we really, I think, we were always close, but that's when we really clicked. Now my dad's my best friend. We probably would have found our way to that ourselves, but I feel a majority of that impetus came from Christian. He was a wonderful stepdad, and I'll be forever grateful to him for the gift of my father.
So I'm gonna change this up a little bit. Sorry, Nika. About a year ago, I was having a beer and catching up with one of my very best friends. He's in his early 50s. He has at the time, 20-year-old daughter. And at the time, Tate was about a year old. And I told him that, since Tate was born, I constantly worried about him, like all the time. And I asked him, I said, when's this going to stop? I think you all know the punchline here. He just looked at me in that knowing smile he has and shook his head and says, yep, it doesn't. And, I've never exactly been a devil-may-care person as I've gone through life, but I've been pretty darn close. And I'll tell you that, being a first-time father at 40, it didn't change a lot of things, but it fundamentally changed absolutely everything. I still do those same mundane things at home and professionally. I still think about the world in much the same way. I still have the same group of friends, though inexorably I find myself spending less times with the ones without kids and a lot more time watching how a large group of young children can go Lord of the Flies in a single Saturday afternoon. It's amazing. So the thing that's different is that almost everything I do now is viewed through a slightly changed lens. It's no longer just about me or even me and April. We were together 21 years before we had a kid. There's something different somewhere inside my gut, and I feel it all of the time now. I went through this phase every first parent can remember about, worrying your kid's just going to stop breathing in his sleep. I'm not worried about that anymore. I've upgraded my fears. Now he's going to get stung by a bee or eat some exotic fruit or otherwise be exposed to something we don't know that he's deathly allergic to at daycare, and I'm not going to be there to do anything to protect him. I'm sure in another year I'll level up again, maybe falling off the monkey bars and breaking his neck. A litany of progressively more elaborate hazards that my brain will invent as he grows over. I'll tell you, the past 4 days, I'm terrified that he's going to get so dehydrated from this stomach bug, he's going to go into cardiac arrest. Yet he's continuing to drink fluids and play and eat and all that stuff. So it's living inside my head. It's remarkable how much it's... I'm not a worrier, I promise you. This is all new for me. But I worry because something inside of me has fundamentally shifted. I found the meaning of life, people. I found the meaning of life. This is my best shot at immortality. I will live on in the memories and the DNA of my child and hopefully in his children one day. But I have to make sure he survives to adulthood first. I have to avoid all of the unlikely yet creatively dangerous things that my mind will continue to invent for me to worry about. I just hope that I can survive too.
Oh my goodness, thank you all for your touching stories of the blessings of fathers. We are richer for them. So I invite us all to support and encourage the fathers in our lives to be the kind of men who bless the lives of those around them. The kind of papa their children can speak of with pride. The kind of dad who's a role model to young boys and a loving hero to young girls because he supports their journeys equally. The kind of patriarch you could rely on to protect, defend, and take care of you. May we as a community encourage more fathers to be in touch with how they can bless their children and thereby work for a society transformed by the blessings of fathers.